Okay, great. So a little bit of introduction before we get started. As a quick overview, this session is divided into four parts. So we're going to start off by taking a quick look at Cambridge Core. This is the main online platform for hosting our ebooks and our e-journals. We won't have time to do a full walkthrough of Cambridge Core today, but we'll talk a little bit about journals content. And if you're interested in a full session, do let me know in the comments or by email. I'm happy to provide an email address at the end. And let me know if you're interested, and I'm happy to book another session so we can cover the site in full detail. But once we talk a little bit about Cambridge Core, that's when we'll get into the OA publishing portion. So we'll talk about publishing with Cambridge and the benefits of open access publishing. Next, what we've done is broken down the publication process into 7 broad steps. So we're going to cover each one of those in more detail. And then finally, we'll talk about the support that's available to you. Chat has been disabled just because of the talking has been disabled just because of the large audience, but chat should still be enabled. So if you have any questions as we go through the session, feel free to type them out in either the chat or the Q&A. It might be easier to put them in the Q&A just for visibility's sake, but in any case, we'll have plenty of time at the end for question and answer. So if I don't catch it during the session, I'm happy to spend some time at the end addressing that. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So again, we're going to start off by going to Cambridge Core. If you're following along at home, great. What you're going to do is go ahead and open up www.cambridge.org/core. One more time, that's cambridge.org/core. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat right now. Great. You don't have to follow along at home, but if you'd like to, you're welcome. Great. So again, this is the main hub for our ebooks and our e-journals content. So Cambridge Core launched in 2016, and it was designed with the researcher and the research journey in mind. It currently features close to 50,000 ebooks, as well as more than a million, I think 1.25 million journal articles as well. So there's a ton of content, obviously way too much to explore in depth today. But one thing that I would recommend when you first get to this site is if you haven't already done so, you're going to want to register for an account. It's free. It takes maybe 30 seconds or less, and it will give you better access to your institution's content. So all you need to do is come up here to the top right-hand corner. Just click on register. I'll just open that up in a new page so you can see what it looks like. And this is just going to ask you some basic questions. So things like your name, your institutional email address, your location, and so on. The only thing that's worth calling out here is if you are an instructor. So if you are a TA or, excuse me, a graduate assistant or a TA or something like that, or if you are a professor or an instructor of some kind, go ahead and click on the little button that says, "Are you an instructor?" Just make sure that's ticked yes. And the reason for that is just because if you are an instructor and we're able to approve you, then we can give you access to extra content. So things like test banks, slide decks, all sorts of content that's available specifically for instructors. So do go ahead and register there if you are one. And then the only other thing is this ORCID ID. So if you want us to make sure that we've got a consistent academic identifier for you, if your name has changed or you're expecting something like that, you can go ahead and enter that in so we can track you. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. You can go ahead and click on register. I will go ahead and log in just to show you what it looks like. So again, I've just clicked log in. You can use your personal account. If you don't have to, though, you can just log in through your institution. That's fine too. In my case, I'm going to click log in. Okay, great. And you'll see a page that looks like this, just confirming that you've logged in. Excuse me. So again, there's far too much content to go through in any kind of detail today, but if you do want to see a full session, do let me know, and I'm happy to book that in the future. What I'd like to focus on for just for a minute or two is our journals area. So if you know exactly what you're looking for, you can always just search for that content using the search bar. Otherwise, if you're not sure and you just want to see what's available to you or to your institution, you can go ahead and click on this button that says Browse. And this is going to show you all sorts of different content, things like our books area, our textbooks area, journals, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And you can see there's more information for topics like open access journals. You can see things like open access articles, as well as some of the collections that we have, including research directions and Cambridge Prisms. As well, if you're just getting started with a lot of the publishing process, you might want to click into the services area. You can click into authors, and then this is going to show you a ton of useful information for things like how to prepare and submit your manuscript. You can talk about things like how to measure impact, or some of the details about open access specifically. But we'll get into that in more detail in later slides. All right, so again, I'm just going to come back to our journals area. I'm going to click on the journals hub. We'll give that a second to load. Okay, great. So this is a listing of our entire journals collection. So I believe there's 420 journals that are listed here. So through Annelis, I believe you should have the full package that's available. So again, once you log in, once you connect to Annelis, you should be able to see everything kind of open to you. So this is pretty straightforward. You can see a list of our titles here. If you want to set alerts so that you're notified every time that someone publishes a new article in your area of research, you can do that here. Or you can even just click into the actual journal page. So I'll click one just at random here. I will do, how about advances in archaeological practice? Great. So you can ignore the light blue text here. That's just because I've logged in with my account. Um, Great. You should see a view that looks like this. And so this is really just the landing page or the home page of the particular journal. It's going to show you things like recent articles that have popped up. You can see links to social media, so blogs where some of those articles come up. You can see things like what's been most cited recently. You can find out information about the journal. So you can see, for example, who's on the editorial board, how would I contact them? What are some of the metrics, things like impact factor that come up here? As well as things like open access articles, or you can browse through all of the issues in the kind of back catalog there. So this is pretty straightforward. The only other thing I'd call out is you might see these colorful little rings here with numbers inside. Those are called altmetric donuts, and basically they're meant to track different kinds of online attention. So who's talking about your work? Has it been picked up by the media or by members of the public? Where in the world is it being talked about? And there's a lot of great analytics that you can dive into if that's something you're interested in. Okay, great. So that's probably enough of Cambridge Core for now. I do recommend that when you have some time, please explore it on your own. You can see there's a couple of those additional buttons at the top here. So things I mentioned, like adding an alert so that every time a new article is published, you get notified. You can also bookmark the page or share it with colleagues that you might be working with. All right, so let's take a break from Cambridge Core for a bit, and we'll come back to our excuse me, our PowerPoint, and we'll get into publishing open access. So we're going to start off by talking about the benefits of open access. So many of you may be familiar with this already, but we know that there are different levels of understanding around open access and around transformative agreements. So we figured it's better to start off with the basics. So at the most basic level, a transformative agreement, or a TA, is an agreement between a publisher and between one or more institutions or consortia to move away from the traditional subscription model. So generally speaking, under a TA, the publisher is going to make the article openly accessible because it's the author funds the publication through that deal that their institution has in place. So in your case, the deal is for Annelis, but that's where the funding would come through. Now, there are a lot of different kinds of open access. You might have heard terms like gold, green, bronze, platinum. There's even a diamond open access. But all of them generally refer to a kind of publishing model which shifts the cost away from the reader so that the research is available to readers at no cost. So in broad strokes, there's a few key advantages to this. Publishing open access benefits both authors and readers. OA articles, for example, are downloaded more frequently. So on average, we see about 3 times as much as their comparable non-OA articles in the same fields. They also come with a wider reach, so that higher usage and that greater readership translates to about a 30 to 50% increase in citations on average. And of course, there is just the larger benefit of making that content freely available to anyone. It's why, as a business, excuse me, we're transitioning to making our journals as open as possible. I think the latest number was that about 90% of our journals now contain some measure of open access, and there's more than 2,500 institutions that are participating in some kind of transformative agreement. So we really are committed to making sure that we've transitioned as much as we can. All right, so now we're going to walk step by step through the publication process. For reference, here's just an overview of the workflow. So a couple quick notes to mention here. The first thing I'd mention is that the standard publishing workflow is going to follow these same steps. The only real difference for open access is this step right here, and that is the APC transaction process, or article processing charge. Now, any OA article that's published with Cambridge, whether that's by an unaffiliated author or whether it's through an institution which does have one of these transformative agreements in place, like an ELLIS, it's going to follow these same steps. And I really want to stress that the OA status of an article has no bearing on whether it's actually going to be published or not. All articles, OA or not, are going to go through that same strict peer review process. But we'll cover that in detail in later slides. Excuse me. All right, so the first part of the publication process covers preparing and actually submitting your manuscript. So before submitting your manuscript, we suggest checking out some of the resources that are available for authors. So you can go ahead and use the QR code here if you've got your phone with you. Otherwise, you can copy and paste the link. If you don't want to do that now, that's fine too. Again, you'll get a copy of the slide deck tomorrow in the email that goes out. So feel free to visit it then or when you have time. But this is generally speaking a good place to start your journey. That's the OA waivers and discounts tool. So all you need to do is go through. You can click on the country of your institution. You can click on the name of your institution. Or in the case of an ELLIS, you can just follow this link. And that's going to show you a dedicated page on Cambridge Core that's just meant for an ELLIS. So you can go through, you can see the terms, kind of what's included, what's available, and there's a ton of resources specifically for authors and for librarians who are just getting started with this process. Great. So definitely explore that when you get a chance. This is just a screenshot of what it'll look like when you click into it. So you'll see a lot of links for things like more information. You can see links on things like the corresponding author, which we'll talk about in a minute, as well as Creative Commons licenses, explaining what each of them are and what they mean and which one you might want to use, as well as some email addresses just for contact information. Great. So while you're on Cambridge Core, again, you may want to check out the author services area. That was that area, the services area in the dropdown that we saw when we first logged in. So you can either follow this link right here, or you can just go ahead and click into services and navigate there. But basically, this is where you're going to find resources like PDF guides and short form video content. We'll also be uploading a future training series to walk you through each stage of the process. I'll include a link at the end of the session so you can sign up if you are interested in additional author training. Also worth mentioning our suite of language editing services. So this can be particularly helpful for authors whose primary language is not English, and maybe you might be worried that a paper could be rejected due to language reasons. If that's something that you are concerned about, or if that's something you need support for, I would encourage you to check out this link here. So you can go ahead and jot that down. It's cambridge.org/universitypress/author services. Excuse me. So there's a few different tiers available based on your need. So this can range from things like basic formatting, checks for clarity, for logic, and for flow, as well as Q&A with an editor, all the way up to a year's worth of re-editing support. So what you might choose or what might want is going to depend on your particular submission and the journal that you're submitting to. But it is worth seeing what's available. Please note that this is a bespoke service that is not included as part of your institution's transformative agreement, but we are happy to offer everyone who attended today a discount code. So this is going to give you, I believe, 10% off. I'll go ahead and put that in the chat right now. So that's going to be CUP author 10. So all caps CUP author 10. And you can go ahead and use that code as well. But I can include that in the email that goes out tomorrow. Okay, great. So at this point, you've prepared your paper and you've reviewed all of the relevant author resources. This is what brings us to actually submitting your manuscript. So on this slide, this is where you'll see a screenshot from the homepage of a selected journal. In this case, it looks like the Journal of Child Language. So for all our authors on the call, the actual process of preparing your manuscript and submitting it are really not affected by transformative agreements. So you're going to take all of the usual steps that you're used to taking. So things like visiting the homepage of the journal that you want to submit to. You're going to go to that homepage and you're going to click on the scope and the aims of that journal. You're going to read through those, as well as any instructions for contributors. And those instructions are going to tell you how to format the paper. So if there are any kind of specific formatting needs for data or tables or charts, graphics, things like that, if it needs to be in a particular kind of submission format, all of that information will be explained to you under either the Information tab or the Submit Your Article tab. Okay, so this is the screenshot of a particular online peer review system, or OPRS, and this one happens to be called Scholar One. We're not going to get too far into the details on things like OPRSs, but I do want to highlight the role of what's called the corresponding author in this process. And the reason for that is just because it's a rights link term, and it's the affiliation, the institutional affiliation of the corresponding author that's going to determine eligibility for publishing under a transformative agreement. So, excuse me. Basically, the corresponding author is just the person who handles the manuscript and the correspondence throughout the publication process. So they're going to have the authority to act on behalf of all of the co-authors in all matters pertaining to publication. This means that when after the paper is published and questions come in, the corresponding author is the person who's going to be responsible for kind of handling that. When considering the choice of who is going to be the corresponding author, we do encourage authors to consider eligibility, not just eligibility with Cambridge, of course, but for other publishers as well. We've had a question in past sessions. Is the corresponding author the same thing as the primary author or the first author on a paper? Not necessarily. It doesn't have to be the same as the lead author or the primary author. It can just be someone who, is, in this case, at Anellus and happens to be affiliated with the deal. But it does not have to be the same as the lead author. It can be if you'd like, but it's really up to you and your research team that you're working with. Great. So this next part of the presentation covers what happens after you actually submit your manuscript. So once your manuscript has been submitted, it's then screened by that journal's editor. So the editor makes sure that the submission fits within the scope of that journal. If it's out of scope, it's possible to receive what's called a desk rejection at this stage. From here, this is where we'll get into the peer review portion, which we'll talk about a bit in the next slide. So the editor then looks at the reviewer's notes and makes the decision to either reject it outright, accept without any changes. And I should note for anyone on the call who is an early career researcher or who's just getting started with their research career, it is quite rare to receive an acceptance without any changes to your paper. So please do not use that as the standard for judging the merits of your scholarship. The most likely scenario here is you'll probably get an email back called a revise and resubmit. So the scale of the revision is going to depend on a couple of different factors, things like um, the journal that you're submitting to, the number of submissions that they've gotten recently, so how much time and effort they're available to put into your specific submission. Um, it's also going to depend on uh, exactly what the issue is. So if it's something minor, something like you just need to reformat your tables or your data, or do language editing, that's fine. That's a relatively short um, problem to fix. Or it could be more significant. So it could be something like you need to address the underlying structure of your argument or your experiments or so on. But it really will depend on your particular submission. All right, so this is just recapping the last few steps. So again, the editor submits the manuscript for peer review. Some kind of decision is going to be made based on the submission. And then finally, this is when, assuming that you've made it through, this is when you'll receive an acceptance letter, which actually triggers the next part. So at this point, the author would then complete what's called an author publishing agreement. This is really the key decision point for the author to make their article open access. So there's going to be a link in the acceptance email that comes through, and this is going to connect them to the journal information page. And that's where the author can select the appropriate form. So the screenshot that we see here, this is just an example of the acceptance letter that you'll see. So it's going to say, "Dear so-and-so, here's a link to your article in this particular journal that you submitted to." It's going to provide you with an agreement reference number and then a contact email in case you have any questions or issues that pop up during that process. All right, so this part just covers the final steps of the publishing workflow. So by this stage, once you've gotten to this point, there's really no more work for the author to do. Instead, all of the work that's remaining is really on our side. So it's stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Excuse me. So at this point, the article is going to go through production, it's going to go through editing, it's going to go through typesetting processes. And then once all of that is kind of done and we've given you the final proof, that's when someone at Cambridge who works in the production side is going to email you with a link to the final published version. And this you can share as widely as you'd like. We get a lot of questions about the production stage itself. So we've created a little FAQ document here. You can find that again under the services area. Just go to, just look for the publication area, excuse me, the production area, and you'll find a page that looks like this. Or you can just search for journal production FAQs. But this is going to answer a lot of the common questions that we get from authors. So things like, um, a change in email address or what's going on with the proofs or what is the format that you need. All of those kinds of questions are going to be handled over here. And again, there's a link to this in the slide deck that I'll send out tomorrow. Okay, quick note here about retroactive OA. So we do run regular and recurring checks for any authors who would have been eligible to publish open access under your deal, but for one reason or another, they chose not to. So the way this works is our marketing team and our operations teams work on this, and they reach out to folks and they let them know about that option to retroactively flip their article to open access. So we've got a question in past sessions, what happens if I'm an author or researcher and I'm on holiday or I'm on sabbatical or something when that email comes through? Does that mean that I've missed my chance and I can no longer flip my article? So I do really want to reassure everyone here. It's not just one email that's sent out. I believe it's 3 emails that are separated by 1 month each. So if you miss the first one, you'll see the second one. If you miss the second one, you'll see the third one. But really, we just want to make sure that everyone who wants to take full advantage of that deal can do so. And you can see on this forum, this is going to have a lot of those same helpful links to things like FAQs. There's an email address if you have any questions, things like that. Excuse me. All right, so we talked earlier about author support, but just a few final points that I'd like to make here, and then we'll recap the session before we move on to questions. So the author support is going to include a range of things. Again, it's going to include a ton of different resources. So things like PDF guides, short and long form videos. It's going to include slide decks that you can go through. There's also personal communication. So whether you need training on the process itself or about some specific aspect, we're available. You can always reach out to us, and I'll provide an email address in a few minutes where you can send any kind of questions that you have. There's also OA resources for making sure that your publication reaches the right audience. If that's something you're interested in, I'll call out that we have a series of webinars that are coming up running from March to June of this year. That's where we're going to dive a lot more into the author side of things. So things like how to select the right journal, how to promote to the right audience once you've gotten through publication, all of that stuff. I'll include a link to that in just a second. That's going to be on this page. Again, you can scroll all the way through and you can find the workshops here at the bottom. But if something else catches your eye, feel free to sign up for that as well. And I'll go ahead and put that in the chat right now. Okay, great. And then the last thing I'd mention here is, of course, all of this comes with the kind of quality and integrity of the publication process that you've come to expect from us as the world's oldest publisher. Just as a reminder, this is a link to our author services page. You can go ahead and see in a bit more detail here what's included at each different tier. You can get a quote for your specific publication. So you can upload the version that you have right now, and it'll tell you, for this word count or this service that you're looking for, this is what it would come out to. So you can take a look at that again. There's a discount code that I've put in the chat. I'll just put that one more time. That's all caps CUP author 10. Great. Other than that, there's two other email addresses that I'll mention here. The first one is for any kind of training needs that you have. You can always reach out to us here at academictraining@cambridge.org. So whether you are a librarian, an instructor, a student, a researcher, whatever part of the process you're at, we're happy to help you with your questions there. And then the second one here, this email address is for any kind of general purpose, open access or transformative agreement related question. So whatever part of the process you're stuck on, you can always reach out to us. And that email is going to be oaqueries@cambridge.org. One more time, that's oaqueries@cambridge.org. All right. So these are just a few slides that are going to cover, just to recap the 7 steps that we talked about. If you want to see everything concisely on one single PDF, just head to the author services area and you can download it, or you can reach out to us and we can send you a copy. But as a reminder, here we've got preparing your manuscript. So things like choosing the right journal, reviewing the instructions, submitting their manuscript. So following the steps of the OPRS, and then waiting for the completion of the manuscript review process. From there, some kind of publication and decision is going to be made. So we talked a bit about the different kinds of decisions that you might see, the acceptance, the rejection, or the revise and resubmit. All right, and then finally, once you've kind of gotten through that stage of it, this is where you'll get into the actual production and sharing of the article. So there's nothing you need to do here as the author, but this is all going on in the background. If you have any questions on that, again, you can always reach out to us. But this is basically the copy editing, the typesetting, all that kind of stuff. And then finally, at the very end, your article will be visible on Cambridge Core. Great. So this is just a recap of the workflow. But that was a lot to go through. Thank you so much for sticking with us. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the questions. So I'm going to start by checking the Q&A feature, and then I'll go through the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or the Q&A as we're going through. Right, so I'm just going to check here. Okay, doesn't look like anything new in the Q&A. I'll keep that open in case anyone has any questions that come up. Okay, one person has asked, I received the following message. The organization that you've selected has not submitted information to Cambridge University Press for their Shibboleth or Open Athens account. Therefore, you cannot access Cambridge Core with this login. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't see a name here, but can you do me a favor and take a screenshot of the error message that you're getting, and then just send it to us so we can troubleshoot that for you? I'll put an email address in the chat right now. Um, you can send this to either the academic training inbox or the OA queries inbox. I'll just put the OA queries one down for now. Queries, Cambridge.org. Okay, so I've just put that email address in. If you could send us a screenshot of what you're seeing, we're happy to troubleshoot that for you. Okay, one person has asked, looks like Elizabeth has asked, I am not familiar with the term instructor. I am a senior researcher coordinating several PhD theses. Can I register as an instructor? Yeah, that's fine. Instructor is a fairly broad term. We tend to use it just because different regions have different versions of it. You might be called a professor in one area or a lecturer in another, or a professor or a different title in a different area. Instructor is just a broad kind of catch-all. As long as you are teaching students at any level, undergraduate, graduate, it doesn't matter. As long as you're teaching students either this semester or another semester, that's fine too. Feel free to register. But good question. Okay, we got another question here. If there are two corresponding authors, one from Romania, which has the possibility of published open access, and the second one from another country, is there a limitation from your side regarding the publishing in OA? No, there's no kind of limit there. As long as there's typically only one corresponding author, but remember that the corresponding author is not the same thing as the lead author. So as long as the person who has the corresponding author title is affiliated with Anellus, that's fine. No matter how many other authors you have, that's okay. As long as you have that one person who's kind of designated there, it's fine. Okay. Mihaela has asked, how will we choose a corresponding author if the paper is going to be hybrid or open source? More exactly, the system will identify automatically the university which is part of Anellus. Yeah, good question. So the way that affiliation typically works, once you've made the decision within your research team about who's going to be the corresponding author, that's all done by when you submit to one of those OPRSs that we talked about, or Scholar One, for example, that's going to identify you with your corresponding author information. So it'll ask you things like your email address, it'll ask you, where you work, and it will take care of that matching. Typically, that ends up matching about 90% of the authors who submit. There's a further 10% who can't be identified through something like email addresses or through ORCID IDs. But for them, we kind of just do it in a bespoke way. So really no concern about the author matching. We can take care of that on our part. There's nothing that you need to do. Okay. Roberta has asked, how much time does it take for an article for open access from submitting until the acceptance letter? Roberta, I would love to give you a simple answer there, but it really depends, is the truth. It's going to depend on the particular subject that you're submitting to, the particular journal that you've chosen, as well as your submission itself. So the scale of the revisions that may or may not be needed. Some of these can be fairly quick in terms of months. Others can take quite a while, again, depending on the nature of the field or the availability of peer reviewers and things like that. So there's no kind of clear answer for that. But it's something that, probably the more accurate answer would be we can give you some estimates for how long individual stages of it take, but not kind of the whole thing. Okay. Alexandra has asked, is there a browser that can help us select a journal using the abstract of the article or any info? So I don't think Cambridge Core has anything that's built in terms of journal selection. But Alexander, if you are interested, there's a whole session that we're going to be doing in March. I think it's mid-March, on selecting a journal specifically. So if that's something you or your colleagues are interested in, feel free to sign up with us, and we'll be walking through that more in detail then. Okay, we've got another question here. Some journals detect automatically in their platform, and it signals the author about the offer and coverage of the APC. Does Cambridge have such an option, basically? So this is also why I suggested in the beginning, before you get started, start off um, with going to the OA waivers and discounts tool. So I will put that link back up right now so you can see it. That's going to be this page right here. So this is a link where you can find that exact information that you're talking about. So you can follow the QR code or just copy and paste the link here. Just make that a bit bigger. But this is going to cover things like what's included in your deal. I think for the case of Anellis, it might just be the full journals package, so you don't really need to worry about specific titles there. But this is kind of a good place to start. Okay. Any more questions, comments, concerns in the Q&A feature? If not, I'm just going to switch to the chat here and just make sure I haven't missed anything in the chat. Okay, looks like we've got a lot of email addresses here. I'm assuming that this is so that people can get a copy of the slide deck. Don't worry about that. We've already got your email address, so if you haven't put yours in yet, that's okay. You'll get a copy of the email with the recording and with the slide deck tomorrow, so don't worry about that. I'm just scrolling through and making sure I haven't missed any questions here. We've got one question from Mihaela. Um, excuse me. How has the institution covered the cost of publishing an article with Cambridge University Press? Do all authors need to be from the same university, or if it's the corresponding author, are they that they're from? Which part of Anellis that will pay? Yeah, so basically, just to recap this, you don't all need to be working in Romania or working in Anellis. That's fine, as long as the corresponding author is affiliated with an institution that Anellis covers. That's all we need. But it doesn't need to be, you don't need to be located in the same university, or you don't need to be geographically in the same country doing the research together, as long as we have that one corresponding author who's connected. Okay, let's just see if there's any other questions. Okay, lots and lots of emails here. Um, looks like some more emails. Okay, we've got one question here. The Commission for Academic Positions in Mathematics, that includes associate professor and professor, made the following decision. Papers or citations in journals that, in general, require the payment of a processing or publication fee at the time of file submission, even if some articles are exempt from paying the fee, will be considered not eligible. Can you comment on this fact, please? So this might be something that's specific to your deal. I'm not sure if that's what's going on, but if you think that there's something that's kind of holding up the deal or holding up your publication, do reach out to us. Again, that OA queries inbox is a great place to handle that specifically. I don't think we're going to be able to go through everyone's specific submission related questions today, but that is a fair question to ask. So again, please do reach out to us. Okay. One person has asked, is it mandatory that the corresponding author should create the account for submitting the paper, or can the primary author create the account? You Either or, really. You can create it if you want. The corresponding author can create it if they want. It's really up to you. As long as the corresponding author also has an account, just to make it easier, that's fine. But we're not going to charge you anything. There's no cost or anything additional if more people want to make it. So it's really a matter of convenience. Okay, Mihai has asked, is it possible to receive a copy of the presentation PowerPoint or video? Yes, that's going to go out tomorrow automatically by Zoom. So you'll get a copy of or a link to the recording as well as a copy of the slide deck. So don't worry about that. Okay, one more question here. Who can create the account for submitting the paper, the primary author or the corresponding author? Um, as long as the corresponding author has the account, it's fine. So one thing I do want to make a distinction between is, so in the very beginning of the session, we talked about registering for an account on Cambridge Core. That's not the same thing as having an account with Scholar One, so that OPRS that we talked about. Cambridge Core is just so that you can access the actual books and journals content and everything that's available on that site. The second part, the part that's actually relevant for publishing your own paper, that's going to be on Scholar One, or excuse me, that's going to be on one of the OPRSs like Scholar One. So for that, we need the corresponding author to be the person who signs up. But if additional people want to sign up on Scholar One, so for example, if you are working on a research team and um, you're maybe not the primary author, this time around, that's okay. But the next time a paper is published, if you are the primary author, it's easier if you already have your Scholar One account. So for that reason, we suggest, as many people as you want can sign up, but we do need the corresponding author to be one of the people that signs up. Okay. I'm just going to check here if there's any other questions here. Victor Stefan has asked, is there a standard form that the OA article has to have? This is really going to depend on the journal itself. One thing I'll mention is we get a lot of questions is about license types and which one you have to use. The simple kind of answer for which license type, which Creative Commons license type you have to choose if you decide to go the open access route, is it's up to you as the author. It's always going to be up to you. But we do try and remind everyone that for funder compliance under your particular deal, so in this case, the Annelis deal, you may have specific requirements from Annelis in order to be able to access that funding. So again, check out this page that we've just talked about, the OA waivers and discounts, and that's going to tell you things like if there's a specific license type you have to choose, if there are any other kind of guidelines that you need to follow in order to be eligible for that funding. But very good question. Okay, I think we might have had some more questions in the Q&A in the meantime, so I'm just going to switch back to that. These are great questions, by the way. Thank you everyone for being so engaged with the presentation. Okay, Morella has asked, what is a corresponding author? So again, as a quick recap, the corresponding author is basically just the person who is responsible for maintaining communications about the paper before and after it's published. So this is not necessarily the same thing as the primary author. If you and your research team decide that you want to make the primary author the corresponding author, that's fine too, but you don't have to make it the same person. Really, the only important thing you need to remember about the corresponding author is that's the person that needs to be affiliated with Annelis in order to get the funding under your deal. So no matter how many authors you have on the paper, if it's 5 or 10 or 100, it doesn't really matter. As long as the corresponding author is affiliated with Annelis, that's how you can take advantage of the deal. Okay. Okay, it looks like some of these are repeat questions. One person has asked, is it okay if the corresponding author is the fifth author, let's say, should they be the second? No, it doesn't matter which one they are. They could be the first or second or 37th. It doesn't really matter as long as they're the person that is, connected on that OPRS and on RightsLink as we've talked about. Okay, we had one more question about the amount of time it takes. Again, that really does depend on your particular submission and about the journal that you're submitting to. There's a lot of different factors that are going to push that timeline one way or another. But I do recommend if you are stuck on a specific part of the process, like for example, if it's in production and it's been taking a while, you can always reach out to us and say, hey, this has been kind of stuck for a couple of months. What can I expect to hear? And someone from that side, whatever stage you're up to, will be able to reach out to you and let you know what's going on. Hey, are there any other questions, comments, or concerns? We'll just give it another minute or two in case anyone has any questions. In the meantime, I'm just going to go ahead and put this link in the chat. Again, this is a link to our other webinars that are coming up. So if you are a librarian who's on the call, we've got sessions for you. If you are an author on the call, we've got sessions for you. And again, those workshops that we talked about as well. So things like selecting the right journal, how to avoid rejection, how to manage peer review, as well as promoting your work after publication. So I'll go ahead and put that in the chat right now, and feel free to sign up as you are available. Okay, we've got another question here from Elizabeta. Is the same ranking applied for Cambridge journals as other publishers? Yeah, so when you log into Cambridge Core or when you go to the homepage of any particular journal, you should see a little square at the bottom if you just keep scrolling down a bit, and that's going to show you the journal ranking. So you can see, for example, what's the impact factor of it. You can see, how does it compare to other journals in the field or other journals that we publish. So all of that information is available. I would suggest find a journal that you are used to publishing in or that you read often and see where it fits. If it's something that you want to publish in, we know that things like impact factor are important for researchers who want to get, knowledge of their work out there. So that's something I would also recommend when you're first exploring those journal pages. Great. So one person has asked, do we receive a certificate of participation for today? There isn't one necessarily, but if that's something that you need for proof or for compliance or something, feel free to reach out to us. I'll put the academic training inbox in there. You can reach out, send us an email there, and just let us know that you need a certificate or some kind of proof that you were here today, and we're happy to send you that. Okay, we'll give it one more minute for any other questions that have come in. I know as well that not everyone is going to be comfortable asking questions in a big open forum with hundreds of others of their colleagues. So if you're not comfortable asking a question today, but you still have a question that you want to ask, that's okay too. Again, just reach out to us by email and we can get back to you one-on-one if that's easier for you. Okay, we'll just give it one more minute here. All right. If not, thank you so much for attending today. If you are able, I would ask at the end of the session, you're going to be prompted with a survey that's just going to ask you how you felt about today's session. You'll also get a version in the email that goes out tomorrow. Please let us know how you feel. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or other things you'd like us to cover, you can let us know as well. Other than that, thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your afternoon and have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.